The news broke on a Tuesday afternoon, shattering the routine hum of daily life. It was the kind of story that seemed almost impossible, the sort of headline you'd expect to see in a history book, not flashing across your television screen in real time. The day had started like any other, commuters sipping coffee, children heading to school, the city slowly waking up under the soft glow of sunrise. No one could have predicted how quickly everything would change. By nightfall, the events of the day would be etched into the annals of American political history, joining the ranks of moments that forever altered the nation's course. Newspapers rushed to print special editions, their headlines bold and somber as crowds gathered in stunned silence outside government buildings. Charlie Kirk, the outspoken founder of Turning Point USA and a polarizing figure in modern politics, had been assassinated. His presence had loomed large over the political landscape, and now his sudden absence left a void that was immediately felt. The initial reports were chaotic and fragmented, with rumors swirling and facts slow to emerge. Newsrooms across the country erupted into a frenzy, phones ringing off the hook, journalists scrambling to verify details, and anchors delivering urgent updates to a nation desperate for answers. In an era already defined by deep political divisions and heated rhetoric, this act of violence was a terrifying escalation. The boundaries of civil discourse had been tested before, but never had they been breached so violently, so publicly. From London to Tokyo, world leaders quickly condemned the attack, expressing their shock and solidarity with a nation grappling with tragedy. International landmarks lowered their flags, and global news outlets devoted wall-to-wall coverage to the unfolding crisis. On social media, the usual cacophony of political debate was replaced, at least for a moment, by an outpouring of condolences and prayers. Hashtags calling for unity and peace trended worldwide, as millions struggled to process the enormity of what had happened. Vigils sprang up spontaneously in cities and towns across the country. People who had never met gathered in public squares, holding candles in silence, united in their condemnation of political violence and their hope for a more peaceful future. For those in the news business, it was a moment of immense responsibility. Every word, every image broadcast carried weight, shaping how the nation would remember and respond to this tragedy. The story was not just about one man's death, it was about the health of the republic itself. The questions it raised about democracy, free speech, and the limits of political conflict would echo for years to come. Every network cleared its programming to focus on this seismic event. Emergency broadcasts interrupted regular shows, and the nation's attention was riveted to the unfolding story. The assassination forced a difficult national self-reflection. In living rooms, community centers, and at memorials, Americans grappled with what this moment meant for their country and what might come next. Within 48 hours, the city was gripped by a sense of urgency and unease. The crime had sent shockwaves through the community, and the demand for answers was immediate and intense. As news broke, the need for answers grew urgent. Crowds gathered outside the courthouse, their faces etched with worry, while reporters scrambled to piece together the unfolding story. The Department of Justice moved swiftly, holding press conferences and releasing official statements to the public. They began to paint a clear picture of the individual responsible, determined to keep the public informed at every step. The suspect, apprehended at the scene, was a 28-year-old man with a history of online radicalization. His arrest was the result of coordinated efforts between local police and federal agents, who acted on a tip received just hours before the incident. Law enforcement officials meticulously laid out the timeline of the attack, tracing the suspect's movements in the days and hours leading up to the crime. They detailed how he had surveilled his target, planned his actions, and executed his plan with chilling precision. The most chilling revelations, however, came from the suspect's digital footprint. Forensic analysts uncovered a trove of online activity, including encrypted messages, social media posts, and search histories that revealed a deep obsession with extremist ideologies. Investigators recovered a manifesto, written in painstaking detail, that outlined his motive with terrifying clarity. The document left no doubt about his intentions or the depth of his conviction. He was a self-proclaimed eco-anarchist, convinced that modern society posed an existential threat to the planet. His writings echoed the rhetoric of radical environmental groups, blending personal grievances with a broader ideological crusade. The planning was meticulous, involving weeks of surveillance of Kirk's schedule. He tracked his target's movements, noting patterns and vulnerabilities, and marked key dates on a calendar as he prepared for the attack. The Department of Justice's transparency was a deliberate strategy, aiming to ground the national conversation in verified facts and prevent the spread of misinformation. Officials emphasized the importance of public trust during such a volatile moment. Ultimately, the suspect's ideology was the central pillar of his motivation. Law enforcement officials highlighted passages from extremist literature found in his possession, underscoring how dangerous ideas can inspire real-world violence. Despite clarity from law enforcement, media narratives diverged. Some outlets pivoted the narrative, framing the assassination as a consequence of right-wing rhetoric. The focus shifted from the perpetrator to the victim and the political movement he represented. Some opinion pieces suggested Kirk's style created an environment ripe for violence. The suspect's ideology was downplayed or omitted, creating a misleading picture. This journalistic malpractice was a conscious editorial decision. The story was manipulated, deepening national divisions. This fractured media environment prevented a shared understanding or unified response. As alternative narratives solidified, commentators like Douglas Murray challenged the disinformation. Murray dismantled false equivalencies, arguing that failing to name the killer's ideology was dangerous. He highlighted the hypocrisy of those quick to assign blame for violence but silent when the perpetrator was from their political tribe. Murray's critique was rooted in law enforcement facts, contrasting evidence with vague media language. His questions forced a conversation about media responsibility to report facts. Other journalists and politicians called out outlets muddying the waters. The fight was about the principle of objective truth. Figures like Murray ensured the true nature of the crime remained central to the discourse. The search for answers led to Capitol Hill, where hearings investigated intelligence failures. The most dramatic moments came during Kash Patel's testimony. Patel pushed back against lawmakers attempting to score political points. He redirected attention to the suspect's far-left ideology, as documented by the FBI. Patel's responses were sharp and unapologetic, advocating for the truth. His engagement was a shock to the system, contrasting with past bureaucratic responses. Patel corrected inaccuracies and demanded focus on evidence. His testimony went viral, resonating with a public tired of political theater. Patel demonstrated a new model of engagement: active, informed, and robust defense of facts. He made it clear that accountability was a two-way street. Amidst political firestorms, a welcome development emerged from the Senate. Senators John Fetterman and Bob Casey issued a joint statement condemning the assassination. They made a plea for civil dialogue and mutual respect. Their message was simple, direct, and aimed at cooling national tensions. Fetterman and Casey reached across the aisle in a genuine gesture of unity. Their statement was a rebuke to extremists seeking to replace conversation with coercion. A bipartisan group of senators reinforced the message of unity. For a brief period, the focus shifted to a shared commitment to democratic institutions. This moment of cooperation highlighted a desire for a less toxic, more constructive engagement. As we navigate this difficult period in our nation's history, I find myself drawn to lessons from the past, moments when Americans faced uncertainty, division, and the daunting task of forging a better future. History, after all, is not just a record of what has been, but a guide for what can be. My upcoming book delves into the remarkable life of Theodore Roosevelt, a leader who governed during times of immense change and upheaval. Roosevelt's era was marked by rapid industrialization, social unrest, and a nation searching for its identity. Roosevelt faced a nation grappling with economic inequality, fierce political battles, and the growing pains of modernization. He confronted these challenges head-on, never shying away from the hard questions or the difficult work of reform. He is perhaps best known for his iconic Man in the Arena speech, an ode to those who strive valiantly, who dare greatly, and who, even if they fail, do so while daring greatly. This message resonates deeply today, reminding us that progress is made by those willing to engage, to risk, and to persevere. Roosevelt's philosophy was rooted in the belief that principles, not just politics, should guide the fight for justice and progress. He believed that leadership required both courage and humility, and that true change demanded unwavering commitment to one's values. He believed deeply in fairness, order, and the rule of law, principles that remain essential to a functioning democracy. Roosevelt understood that justice must be accessible to all, not just the privileged few. The spirit of Roosevelt's leadership, his energy, optimism, and willingness to bring people together, offers a valuable model for us today. He showed that even in times of discord, unity and progress are possible. Today, Calls for unity and factual accountability echo that same spirit. We are reminded that honest dialogue, mutual respect, and a shared commitment to truth are the foundations of a healthy society. The path to healing our divisions requires not only strong convictions, but also a willingness to engage in civil discourse, to listen, to learn, and to find common ground, even when we disagree. Ultimately, the search for unity begins with recognizing our opponents not as enemies but as fellow Americans, each with hopes, dreams, and a stake in our shared future. By embracing this spirit, we can move forward together, just as Roosevelt once inspired a nation to do.